Good morning, Sharelle.
Good morning, Eugene.
Good morning. What are we training today?
Lower body.
Lower body. And then what are we going to train tomorrow?
Lower body.
Lower body. And then what are we going to train Thursday?
A little bit of upper body and lower body.
And lower body. And then what are we going to train on Friday?
Glutes.
Glutes. just glutes. Just an hour of thrusting and that's it. That's it. No, we are doing a high frequency glute program because you are how many weeks out of your contest prep?
23 weeks out.
23 weeks out. I don't know
How
why.
many weeks are we out?
Are we out? Yeah, apparently we're 23 weeks. Apparently I'm dieting too. Apparently I'm prepping for this
I think
well.
from 20 weeks out you're dieting, aren't you?
We'll see what happens. We'll see. No promises. Anyway, 20 weeks out, and we're doing a high-frequency glute program. Today we're going to take you through one of the days, and we're going to talk a little bit about other stuff related with this program. So let's get into it.
I think you're in focus. You can never tell with these cameras. Anyway, so question one.
Okay.
Why 4 days? Why not 5 or 6 or 7 days?
Why 4 days? I used to always train 5 or 6 days, and then that resulted in not much progress and hamstring tendonitis.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So I've gotten really good results doing 4 days. So why would I do more if I can get away with 4?
Right. For sure. That makes a lot of sense. Like, it's efficiency. Why do you think you weren't making progress when you were doing 5 or 6 days?
There's a few factors. Training intensity, obviously couldn't scale when my volume was so high and my frequency. I used to work full-time shift work, so that's another consideration, is like lifestyle was just stressful. So overtraining or under-recovering was probably impacting how much muscle mass I could actually build.
Do you think now, though, like you've got a very different lifestyle? Like last time you prepped, you were working as a nurse, midwife, working crazy hours. Now you're not doing that. You're still working a lot, but you're not doing shift work. A lot less stress. You can focus a lot more on your lifestyle. So do you think you could get away with more training?
Just because I can doesn't mean I should, right?
Okay. So how do you track whether you would need to maybe? Like what are you looking at? Like now you say you're making good progress. How do you gauge that? What's your measurements?
I do like objective and subjective measurements for myself. Mostly objective, I'm looking at like strength targets, body composition, how well I'm recovering. And then subjectively, like how much I'm enjoying my training, how well I'm sleeping, how I'm feeling, all those things that you can't really put on a metrics scale. So making progress on 4 days or continuing to make progress means that I can have more time to do aerobic work or cardio, which is conditioning, which is what I'm going to focus a lot on for this prep, as well as posing, which is another big focus point, and it all chews up time. So doing more doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to get a better result.
Well, do you ever have that little thing in your mind saying, I'm making awesome progress right now. If I did 5 or 6 days, I'd make even more progress. Because that is definitely a consideration.
Yeah, that's what I used to do in the past. It didn't really work out so well for me.
Right, so it's more of a history thing for you.
But I say this to all, like so many females come to me doing like a ridiculous amount of volume. And even the Train with Sharelle program that we're doing, that I classify as high volume, a lot of the girls are saying, oh, this is quite low volume for me.
Right.
And I'm like, it's like maintenance calories. You know, if you're always eating a certain amount, like you're not going to make any changes if you just keep going lower and lower. Like you've got to build your volume capacity the same as what you would with like your own calories, for example.
Right. So how do you overcome that with people? How do you get them to say like, start a program like this that's lower volume or lower frequency? How do you then teach them what intensity is or how to push appropriately? Because I find, especially with women, these train self, they're usually doing 40 sets in a workout.
Yeah. Well, I think the hardest part is like, firstly, you have to be coachable. So they have to be willing to actually do it. The second thing I go, this is what you've been doing and this is where you are. This is the result that you've got. And with this method, how's that going for you? Like, are you achieving what you want to achieve? And then I also come in and be like, look, that was me too. And this is where I am now. So I think that component of relatability and being able to be like, well, there's not only one way of doing it. And like, you don't always just have to keep working harder.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that's probably one of the most important things that you could ask somebody is, how's it going for you? How's it working for you? And I'll say, oh, it works pretty good.
Yeah.
Until it doesn't. Yeah. But that's always a good probing introductory question to ask people. How's that working for you? And then just leave it to them to decide how things are going. So back for you, on topic for you, things are going pretty well. I know the other day we were talking one thing that's kind of new for you, or relatively new, is doing a lot more conditioning work, a lot more cardio work. Like you're doing it, how much are you doing now?
I'm doing 30 minutes 6 days a week.
All right. And you said you're 23 weeks out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you look at a traditional bodybuilding prep, that's...
The opposite.
Yeah, people normally would start like 20 minutes 3 times a day, or 3 times a week, and then they would scale up to daily, twice a day by the end of the prep. Whereas this is very different for you. I mean, this is how I would do it too. I front load cardio all the time with preps. But yeah, how are you finding that? What have you noticed?
What have I noticed? Like fitness level has definitely increased a lot. When I first started the cardio, for example, it didn't take me long to get my heart rate up, or to I didn't have to have the treadmill on such an incline, for example.
Right.
Whereas now my heart rate's adapted a lot more. I feel more efficient in my workouts. So between sets, I feel like I'm recovering a lot more. And also just for routine and motivation, it's been really good just to get up and do 30 minutes of cardio, do some jobs, get back to messages, and just have more of a routine. And we all thrive off routine. It's something I've never had. So I'm just enjoying having it at the front. And I've also come into shows where I haven't been conditioned enough and not ready. And I don't want that to happen again. So I would rather push harder now so I can sort of cruise into my prep and not have to grind in when calories are low.
Is that something you think you'll start doing more with the girls that you take care of, and to train you would recommend a lot more cardio at the start of a dieting phase?
It's going to depend. Like I have some girls that don't use cardio because it's not appropriate for them. They don't need it. They have active jobs, active lifestyles. So it's going to depend on person to person. For me, I have the lifestyle and the commitments and I guess the routine to be able to do so, but it's probably not going to be practical for everyone to say you must do half an hour of cardio in the morning 6 days a week. So I think it depends. In an ideal world, yes. In an ideal world, I think it's going to be better to make strong momentum at the start of your prep while motivation is high, so that when things get tough and you've got time pressures, you're not so stressed out about coming in conditioned enough.
Yeah. It's also a very different thing. I mean, having an active lifestyle, saying like being a nurse, you're on your feet all day, that's still very different to cardio. That's still a very different type of activity.
It's still going to impact your recovery though. It's still a recovery consideration that you need to take into account.
Yeah.
And also a lifestyle thing. So a lot more people are competing these days, and they're not competing at a pro level. You know, perhaps it's your first time. You know, there's lots of reasons why people do compete, especially women. And maybe conditioning for some of the categories isn't at a top priority.
Yeah, in terms of leanness,
yes,
I guess.
How lean you need to be.
Yeah, but conditioning from an aerobic perspective, that should be everybody's priority. And that's probably a lot of why you're doing it now as well. Like for fat loss, you could just say just diet more.
Yeah.
Drop some calories there. You're eating plenty of food still. How many calories are you having?
About 1750, I think, a week, which is sufficient.
Because what's your body weight at now?
62.5 kilos, roughly, on average.
I came down a fair bit. Shit.
Yeah, I started my prep at 66.
Oh, I thought it was 68 or something.
No, shit, no. Can you swear on this?
Apparently you can.
Yeah, so I've lost whatever that is in probably 4 weeks.
Right, okay.
Which when you look, it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you looked at like what 1% of my body weight would be, I'm probably, you know.
Yeah, you're pushing it a little bit.
Yeah,
hard,
which is the way I want, which is what I want, because I want to be able to refeed and pull back a lot of the cardio later on. It just makes so much more sense.
So tell me about why you're doing glutes, apart from the obvious. I mean, no, even then, it's not obvious, because you've got great glutes. So why are you doing such high volume and frequency as a specialization phase for glutes?
I've actually been probably doing like lower glute volume for me for the past probably 4 months, I would say. So now moving up to more of like a half full body styled split, I really wanted to push volume now so I could potentially pull it away and then increase intensity.
For sure. So a lot of your approach seems very smart and methodical of going hard now, overdoing stuff potentially now and then scaling back later.
Yeah.
How do you go about putting together a specialization phase for, say, glutes? Like, what do you look at in terms of volume, number of exercises? Are you trying to hit certain, like, you have a strength day versus a pump day? What do you do? What are we doing?
Well, at the moment, I'm more going on like more volume, just overall across the week, and making sure that it's not impacting recovery too much. Yeah. The next phase, I still will keep the volume, but I'll start pushing intensity a little bit more, and then I'll start stripping back some of the volume, going to probably more of an upper-lower split, so I can recover a bit more.
And so that'll be phase 3, you'll be pushing intensity much higher as you get up below, because you've got more recovery days.
Yeah. I still want to push for like, you got to push the whole way through prep. You don't just sort of like sprinkle in. But the point is now why calories aren't like dirt low is to like push now so I can capitalize on this period and then be able to recover a bit more in the show, because I don't expect to be building a whole lot at the moment. Even though you can, it's sort of not the aim. And I actually think that I probably will build into a show.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, looking at how you've grown the past year, I mean, even pushing calories super crazy high in a big bulk or anything, you're still going to grow very easily and not put on a lot of body fat. I don't see any reason why you can't. How many sets, like do you have a set target each week? Are we doing 30 sets a week or 50 sets a week or per session?
We're doing 34 sets a week of glutes. Yeah, but like we were chatting about last week, whether you classify, like what classifies as direct glute work.
Right.
You know, like are you classifying a lot of hamstring movements in that biased as well? So total, whenever I'm engaging my glutes, it's about 34 sets total. Maintenance for upper body, more so on the lower side, but I will increase that when I reduce lower body volume.
So what's your maintenance look like for upper? How many sets are we doing per week?
Probably like 8 to 12, I think, sets, which is still like, it's not super low, but the goal isn't really to build much more upper body size. And unlike lower body, I can't push as hard with upper body. Like we females just don't have, I guess, the strength that we do with lower body. I mean, like we do very similar on the glute drive. There's no way that I could grind through that with upper body training.
For sure. Do you, so 8 to 12 sets on upper, and that's just like, that's mainly back and shoulders. Like we don't have any chest work or arm work.
I do still do, I've got some triceps and I've got some chest work as well, but a couple of sets. Yeah, I do.
When?
No, it's like 3 sets of triceps. I probably just do it in the corner so you can't see me.
What are you doing?
Tricep extension on the cable.
Like that?
Fly away. I am doing triceps though. I am doing triceps.
Why not biceps?
Because I've got pretty well developed biceps. And from a bodybuilding perspective, I want to bring up delts more and back, not so much biceps.
Yeah, for sure.
So when you get leaner, like my biceps generally look bigger. And I think a lot of people think, oh, she's quite large, but as you get leaner, like you just look bigger on Instagram and social media.
Absolutely. Do you worry about anything like imbalances per se? Like say, like you're doing very minimal chest, you're doing all back work, you're doing, say no biceps, you're doing triceps, you're doing a lot of glutes, you're not doing much quads. Like we do some split squat, lungey things, but there's no like basic squat or hack squats. No, there's a glute focused leg press, no extensions. Do you worry about imbalances like that? Do you factor that in?
Not really. I mean, like, I don't look at training as one block. It's the whole year. So I've definitely done phases where I've pushed, you know, more quad dominant lunging variations, hack squat, like, you know, so not really. And I would, if I noticed things, if I started noticing that I wasn't recovering very well or I was getting some niggles or things were feeling tight that shouldn't, then I probably would sprinkle some more of that work in, not just from an aesthetic point of view, but more functional.
Yeah. I mean, do you notice any, what kind of things might you feel like knee or low back, hamstring? It's all good?
No issues. And I think that just comes down to that reason. Like, there's not one thing I have to do. You know, I'm very much, I don't strictly auto-regulate, but I listen to my body and what it needs.
Would anything tell you to stop doing as much glute volume? Like, let's say something happened in a week or two. What would have to happen to make you pull back?
For me, like I've had lower back issues in the past.
Right.
I would probably start to notice some fatigue in my lower back from maybe pushing hip extension too much. That would be like an early warning sign for me, as well as strength probably dropping off, how I'm recovering, how I'm sleeping, all those metrics that we sort of spoke about earlier. That's what I'd look at.
Yeah, but probably the most specific one would be the low back fatigue.
And when I look at glute volume as well, it's not just heavy glute drives. You know, it's cable hip extension, it's abduction work, it's very fluffy stuff as well, so I count that too.
Okay, sounds good. I think that's enough talking.
Yeah.
I want to ask you more about, like, you know what? The YouTube has got to keep it short and sharp, concise.
You don't really care either.
What do you mean?
No.
I care so much about you. So much. I'm so heavily invested in you.
Have you learned anything today? I swear I know what I'm talking about.
Anyway, that is it from us today. Have a good day, guys. Thank you all for tuning in to today's episode with Sharelle. I'm hoping to film a lot more content with Sharelle in the coming weeks and months in the lead up to her competition on stage. So if you have any specific questions at all for her or for me with regards to training or nutrition or anything in between, do drop them into the comment section below, because we'll be going through them to help to piece together more content for the future. And of course, if you haven't already, make sure you do subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all the future releases in this series. Anyway, we'll see you guys next time.